How long before Frondell he's staying, I believe, in Sweden, and maybe could come back at the end of this year? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen a little bit.
Okay.
I think we'll likely get a look at him in camp and then decide where we go from there. But the option certainly is to have him go back to his Swedish team, which they won the championship in the second division. So they're up in the main Swedish Hockey League this year, which is the top league over there. So if he ends up back in Sweden this year, he's going to be playing against men, professionals, and in a really good league, a really good development opportunity. So that's one of the options for him. But I think it's a little early to really set course for one way or the other just yet.
What was it about him that appealed to you to take him third overall? And there was some speculation before the draft, Kyle, that you were in a position to maybe shop that pick to see what you could get in return. Was there any truth to that?
I think, with respect to shopping the pick, you always have to be open to anything that's out there if it makes sense, if it's advantageous to do so to help your team, as long as it fits within the framework of your plan and the direction you're going. And nothing did fit within that framework, and so we were very glad to hold on to the pick. He was someone that we were extremely high on all year. I think that two-way game, the heavy game he plays, the ability to play really any position, either wing or center, and to play with really good players, his finishing ability. He's just a really complete, exciting prospect to add to our group, and I believe is someone that fills a profile that he's somewhat unique within our prospect pool right now, which was exciting to add some variety to that group.
It's so much fun. We'll get into all of the moves you've made, but essential to the organization, to the future, is obviously Connor Bedard, and we've had a few different conversations with people about what he's doing this summer, how he's recommitted himself, how you guys have people with him and helping him out in Vancouver as he moves forward. I saw a couple of days ago you said that that you're having conversations with him about a new contract, that you've already begun that process. What can you tell us about Bedard and where he is at and where you guys are at with him?
Yeah, I think obviously Connor's he's a special player. I think the change that he's made this year is not recommitting in the sense that he's committing to working hard. He's always done that. I think he's just any young player coming into the league, they learn, and there's development both in their training and their off seasons. And I think Connor's changed some things up now that he's learned what the NHL grind is like, what the NHL game is like. Switching some things up in his training and in his game that I really do believe, and organizationally we believe will benefit him long term. And I think the future was always extremely exciting for him. But as he adapts his game and grows his skill set, I think it's even more exciting to see where things go in the years to come. And so we're really excited that he's kind of digging in and taking some new angles at his training, and really think it will benefit him and us long term.
Kyle, it can be easy for people to forget that he's not going to celebrate his 20th birthday for another 2 weeks this month. And I think that he comes into his third season with the benefit of that experience to learn from and grow from. Just curious, when you look at him changing his maybe physical body as he continues to mature, also does he have to change or adjust his approach, maybe defer less, shoot more, just because of the kind of player he is? And with those conversations, how much are you considering moving him away from center to play a wing where he might be more inclined to be that shoot first guy?
Positionally, I think we'll let that play out over time. Right now, we view him as a center. I think he wants to be a center. It's a position where he feels most comfortable and has played growing up. He's gonna demand the puck and possess the puck a little more down the middle. But we'll let that all play out. And like you said, it's not it's not an easy league for any young player, but, his first year he was the youngest player in the league. Last year, he was the full-time second youngest player in the league. And so he's very young in this league, and what he's accomplished is really impressive to this point. And so, I think there's, again, for a 19-year-old that's already got 2 years under his belt, it's just exciting to see where he's going to go and where he's going to take this group down the road.
Yeah, we talked to Frank Saravelli last week about just what he's hearing about it. Maybe you can let us know. He's changing his body a little bit. You guys have some conditioning guys out there with him, some skills people out there with him, and he's really concentrating on the way he put it is that he's cleaning up some bad habits that he developed over the first 2 years. I'm just wondering if you could clarify I don't know what the bad habits are. And I'm just wondering, is there any, when you had your exit interview with him, I know it was great hearing him at the end of the season talk about the speed of the team and he's got to get himself faster and all that. Is this part of what we're hearing, him changing his body a little bit?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And it's, again, like to improve something like skating, there's a physical component that goes outside of just the technical aspect of your skating stride. There's, your body has to be able to execute certain movements to then execute the proper stride, the most powerful stride, and things like quick feet and crossovers, and your body has to be prepared for that. And so you've got to train a certain way, and that's some of the changes he's made is going to be geared towards making sure his body can execute some of these new technical aspects in his skating that he wants to implement. And so that's something that, again, we don't have actually boots on the ground in Vancouver with him. Our strength and skills teams are in coordination and in communication with the people that he's working with, which has been a great partnership. And everyone's kind of pulling the rope in the same direction, which is essential in getting the most out of a player's development. And so, it's fairly nuanced, but there's things that he will do off the ice that will benefit him on the ice. But it takes time. You can't fix or change something like your body or improve skating all in 1 month. It's probably something that takes a summer or multiple summers. But you know what? Committing to getting faster and in our game is essential, because it is a fast game. It's obviously a fast league, the NHL, and it's only getting faster. And the fact that he can self-assess and recognize areas for growth in his game is, I think that's what the best players do, is they know what they need to improve and they attack it.
We're talking with Blackhawk General Manager Kyle Davidson here on the Mully Haugh Show, on The Score and on CHSN. So you look at his decision to skip the Worlds and to stay, go back home and do this fitness regimen and commit to changing his body. Were you in support of that? Did you discuss that with him? Because it was such a good experience for Frankie Nazar, Kyle. I think that you could look at it both ways. Yes, it's good for him to have the rest, but what a great opportunity it was that Frankie Nazar took advantage of.
Yeah, we were in full support, and it's not a blanket, opinion for these players on World Championships to go or not. And some players, it's given where they're at, it's a great opportunity. And Connor did it last year, and he had that experience last year. This year, I think with the seasons that he had previous, it's a different world that he lives in sometimes when it comes to obligations and fatigue and that kind of thing. And so I thought it was a really mature decision on his part to take some time off, get a head start on some rest and recuperation, and attack his off season with a full head of steam, which I believe he's done and executed on. And so it's a very player specific decision, and in the end we will always leave that up to the player, and it's not going to be a Blackhawks decision. We will be an input in the process, but we want them to own their own off-season decisions and their own career decisions. And so that was something that he felt was important for him to get the most out of his summer and come prepared into training camp the best he could. And so we fully supported that.
I'm very curious. The way that people, just reading everything, the depiction is that you're not rushing the rebuild, that you're not trying to get ahead of it. You're trying to rebuild this team and take advantage of the talent that you have. And we keep reading that there is patience here, in part because you don't know which guy's coming next or how quickly everyone's coming. And we're seeing great development. David mentioned Frankie Nazar and how well he played with the U.S. And I'm sure that you're hoping it's going to be like a breakout year for him. Rinzel has really taken another step. Do you have any feel for who's coming and how quickly and how, you know what I mean? Are you trying to leave openings for guys as they graduate into the NHL?
Yeah, no, I certainly believe that we are leaving spots open for them, but in a responsible way. You know, we're not going to leave spots open for players that aren't quite ready for it. Just like last year, we had a busy free agency,
Yes.
you know, last summer, because we didn't feel that all these younger players were ready. One, maybe they weren't even in pro hockey yet, but you know, it wasn't responsible for us to force or expect them to take on that workload at the NHL roster at that time. I believe we're in a different spot this year. Another year of development and another year of physical growth for some of these players has left them in a spot where we believe they are ready to, you know, in many cases, take an NHL roster spot. And, you know, that doesn't mean that they're all going to get one. You know, we've got a lot of really exciting young players and not enough spots for all of them. And so they're going to have to compete with each other. They're going to have to compete with some veterans as well. And they're going to have to earn those spots. But there certainly are more roster spots available for the taking for our young players that this time around we do feel are ready to step in and impact the NHL roster. And so that's exciting. That's a step that we're taking in our rebuild that we weren't prepared to do in the past. And that's kind of the moving forward that you want to see in something like this is that progress of the young players that we've drafted. They've developed and to the point where they're ready to start, you know, impacting and you know, making their way into the NHL. And so I think we're going to see that this fall.
It was also exciting last Friday night during the first round of the draft, Kyle, when you moved back into it and you announced that you had taken Mason West at the number 29 overall pick. And it was interesting because of his background. He's devoted and committed to playing his senior year as a quarterback in Edina, Minnesota. And he's on a very good team, and he's got offers to play quarterback at the Division I level. What's the risk-reward calculus there, and how long is the timetable for a guy like Mason West, who's 17 years old, but boy, is he mature. When he was talking at the press conference, I started to say, is this Mason West or is this Jonathan Toews back in 2009? There were he's a very mature young man. What are the expectations, and what drove you to do this?
Yeah, well, what drove us to do it first of all was just the physical and athletic profile that's there. He's, you know, I want to call him a huge man, but he's still a kid, and so, you know, but he's you know, he's pushing 6'6", he's pushing 220 pounds. He can skate. He's got some nice hands and skill, and so there's just so much there. But he's raw, and if he wasn't raw, he likely would have not been available to us when he was. And so there is some risk with the rawness of him. But, you know, I think back to a guy like Sam Rinzel when we took him. It was, did he go a bit early? Maybe. But you know what? We really love the tools. We love the size, the path that he was going on. You know, at the time, Sam was headed back to the USHL and then to the University of Minnesota. And with Mason, he's gonna play some football, and then he's gonna go to the USHL, and then he's gonna go to Michigan State and play hockey, which is another great program we have a ton of faith with. We've got a lot of experience with the Spartans through Artie Levshinov, and so we're really excited about the path he's on, and just the athletic profile that he provides. I think is something that we can really work with, and we can really dig into with our development group, and we're really excited about it. There's some risk, but you know what? At 18 years old, when you're drafting 17, 18-year-old kids, there's risk in all of them. And so, we're going to throw in with a true athlete, someone that can, that the sky's the limit for. And so we're going to invest in him, and I know he's going to invest in the process with us, and we're excited about what it could, what the end result could be.
The only thing that scares me is Mason West's a great quarterback name, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about that with Anton Frondell or Vaclav Nestrassel, but among your first-round picks, it stops you.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing where, a lot of times in young players' development, especially, much earlier in their careers or in their playing histories, that we lament the fact that they only play one sport. And we always, they'd be so much more well-rounded if they were involved in other sports and got other athletic experiences. And then this comes around and people are kind of nervous and seeing it as a negative that he's good in another sport and still wants to play another sport, where I think, for us anyways, we're always, they should get away from hockey. They should do something else athletically. And he does. Now, is it a physical sport? Yes. But you know what? He's an athlete. He feels an obligation to his school and that program. And so, you know what? I commend the loyalty and the commitment he has to that group. And if he's going to play football, then we'll support that. We knew that walking in, but we also knew right from his mouth that he's 100% committed to hockey. And so that's what we're also excited about, and think that there's a ton of upside here, and it's a really unique situation, a really unique story, and we're excited to kind of traverse that journey with him.
So, Kyle, this wasn't a great free agent class in terms of depth and ability to have some quick strike guys that were veterans, but you re-signed Kyle Donato, who had a career year last year and is on this upswing of his career, hopefully. And then you went out, and we know you like Sam Lafferty because this is the third time you've acquired him. So we figure he's going to get an opportunity.
Third time I've traded for him. Second time he's going to play for us.
Yeah, because he ran out of contract right at the last time this happened. So those two guys will be in the mix. But are you done? Are you still looking? How would you assess where you are roster-wise in terms of adding another veteran?
Yeah, we're always, you're always on the hunt, and you're always searching. Like you said, it probably wasn't the deepest free agent crop we've seen, and that was certainly something that played into it. But like we discussed before, is that these young players that we feel are ready to step in and grow at the NHL level. That was another aspect of this too, is that we didn't want to oversign, we didn't want to overcommit to players that we're going to block out some of these young prospects that we do feel are ready and we do feel are part of the bigger picture here. And so that was all part of the calculus in terms of this free agent period. Having said that, we're always talking to other teams. You're always canvassing and seeing if there's a way to improve upon your group. And I think it's more nuanced than just a general blanket improvement. If we're going to go out and really make a move, it's probably got to be someone that either impacts the group greatly in the more medium or long-term view of our build. And so we're going to keep scouring. We're going to keep our ear to the ground and pulse on the market. But if we walked into training camp with this group right now, I think we'd be very satisfied and very excited about what the group and the future growth could be for this group.
Yeah, the other thing about the draft, as you look at it, is there were a lot of big players in this draft, a lot of really solid, big athletes. I believe 8 guys drafted by the Blackhawks. The smallest size was 6'1". I mean, that's a tall group, and you had 4 over 6'4". We watch the Stanley Cup, and we see how big these guys are, and you wonder, can you be big enough? You guys potentially have gotten a lot bigger here. Is that something that you went into with that idea in mind in this draft, or is that just the nature of the guys now playing hockey that it's gotten to be a bigger group in the sport?
Honestly, I think it was just a function of this draft class was bigger. I don't necessarily. My own personal opinion is if you go in and say into a draft and say we're going to get bigger, I think you're going to pass up on talent. You might be taking some bigger players that just aren't going to play, and that doesn't do anyone any good. And so, it just worked out that way. We really liked the players that we got, that were available for us when our selections rolled around, and they just happened to be big. And you know what? It's probably something that we would have liked to address, but we weren't going to chase it. I wouldn't say that before this draft, our drafts have had the biggest players, which is sometimes the way it goes. You can't make players or create what you need. You just have to go with what's there. Now we're really excited about what we've got in the system, and adding some size and talent this year was just somewhat of a happy coincidence. And so, we'll take it. It's a nice flavor added to our prospect pool, and especially in the first round with Anton Václav and Mason, they're big players that we definitely think can play, and so that's an exciting element that's been added to the group.
Last question, Kyle. We really appreciate your time. So Jeff Blashill is the new coach. The process started by talking to David Carl. He made his decision to stay at Denver. Jeff Blashill, though, comes with some experience from Detroit, and also he just sounds like a hockey coach who knows how immense the challenge is in front of him, but ready to embrace it. What stood out about him in the process?
I think it was just, there's some elements to these things where you get in the room and it just feels right. It's an intangible. It's just some sort of connection that's there, and I think that's the first thing that I felt was we got in, we started talking hockey, and this just feels right. It just feels like it fits. And then you get into how he views the game, how he views development, his understanding of our group and the vision he had for it independently before we really started sharing our thoughts. It really lined up. There was a ton of synergy there. There was a ton of speaking the same language in terms of how the game would be played with our group and how we could get the most out of our group, both veteran and young player. And so there was just a lot of agreement and being on the same page across the board. And then, you add in some really quality experience as a head coach, but then also as an assistant in Tampa Bay, and then also previously to that in Detroit. And I think it fit on so many levels, and then that both personal and hockey connection that he and the management group had here was just too good to pass up. And so we're really excited about Blash getting his hands on this group and really kind of taking it to the next level over the next couple of years.
Kyle, thanks a ton. Really enjoyed the conversation and wish you the best. Thanks.
Have a great weekend, Kyle.
Awesome. Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Kyle Davidson. Kyle from Chicago, if you will.